This coin almost slipped through the cracks of history at a simple penny, tossed into change, forgotten in drawers, jingling at the bottom of pockets. Yet one collector's discovery turned out to be worth nearly $750,000, that's right. A single 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, worth up to $761,000. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But hidden within this ordinary copper-plated coin is a story that stunned the entire coin-collecting world. And if you're not paying attention, you might already have one in your possession. Imagine buying a cup of coffee, sliding a penny across the counter, not realizing you just handed away a small fortune. That's exactly how treasures like this are lost every single day. But one man's sharp eye changed everything. Back in 2016, billions of Lincoln pennies were minted across the United States. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the big three mints, were churning them out. Most are worth exactly 1 cent, nothing more. But buried among the ordinary were mistakes. Rare, valuable, shocking mint errors that transformed a common penny into a piece worth hundreds of thousands. Collectors were stunned when the first of these rare 2016 no-mint Mark pennies appeared at auction. A tiny detail most people overlooked had created a rarity so powerful it drove bidding wars. The final hammer price? An unbelievable $761,000. The answer begins with a minting mystery. Most Philadelphia pennies carry no mint mark, just a plain obverse design featuring Lincoln's proud profile. To the average eye, it's just another coin. But for collectors, tiny variations in strike, metal composition, and die errors mean everything. One error can mean the difference between a penny worth face value and a penny worth nearly $1 million. In 2016, experts discovered that some no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies showed unusual doubling. The letters in God We Trust appeared slightly thicker, doubled, almost ghost-like. The date itself, 2016, looked blurred in places, as if struck twice. This wasn't normal wear. This was a minting error, and it set the coin world on fire. But that wasn't all. Certain examples also revealed plating flaws, tiny cracks where the copper cladding had separated. To collectors, these weren't imperfections. They were signs of authenticity, proof of a rare mistake. The more these coins surfaced, the more incredible the prices became. Auction houses reported fierce battles between bidders. Collectors who'd spent decades searching for rarities were suddenly confronted with an unassuming 2016 penny. Selling for life-changing sums. One man's pocket change became a miracle. Another woman found hers in a coin jar she nearly dumped into a bank's coin machine. Both walked away with life-changing wealth, all because they noticed what others ignored. But here's the part that still shocks experts today. The majority of these rare 2016 no-mint Mark pennies are still out there. That's right. They're hiding in circulation, tucked into coin rolls, resting inside piggy banks, waiting to be discovered. Every time you handle a penny, you could be touching a fortune, and you wouldn't even know it. But what happened next stunned even veteran collectors. 2016 no-mint Mark penny crossed the auction block and shattered expectations. Collectors thought it might fetch a few thousand, maybe 10, and instead, the bidding escalated beyond belief. $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. The crowd gasped as the number soared higher and higher. When the auctioneer's gavel fell, the coin had reached $761,000. A single cent, transformed into a treasure worth more than most people's homes. And with that sale, the 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny was etched into numismatic legend. Collectors rushed to re-examine their pocket change. Dealers scrambled to study rolls from banks. Even seasoned experts admitted they'd overlooked details that now meant millions. Here's the truth. First, look closely at the obverse, Lincoln's portrait. Examine the motto, "In God We Trust." On rare double-die varieties, the letters appear slightly thicker, shadowed, or distorted. It may not be obvious to the naked eye. A magnifying glass could reveal what you'd otherwise miss. Next, check the date on some of the rarest examples. The 2016 looks off, a faint doubling or unusual thickness in the numerals. TOA trained collector. This is a red flag of a minting error. Then, examine the coin surface. Flaws in the copper plating, strange ridges, or unusual cracks can all point toward an error coin. And error coins are where the big money lies. Now, here's what most people get wrong. They assume only older pennies are valuable. But the truth is, even modern coins, like this 2016 penny, can fetch hundreds of thousands if the right error is present. That's why collectors emphasize one rule above all. Never overlook the ordinary. Point. One collector famously said, "The most valuable coin is the one everyone else ignored." And in the case of the 2016 no-mint mark penny, that wisdom proved true. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't rush. Look carefully. Examine each penny as if your future depends on it, because it just might. Imagine the shock of holding a coin worth more than your car, more than your house, more than your entire retirement account. That's not fantasy. It's the reality of rare discoveries hiding in plain sight. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins surfaced. They'll be even more shocked when the next one emerges from circulation. And it could be you who finds it. Because this isn't just a penny, that it's a chance at $1 million miracle, that it's proof that treasures still exist in the most unlikely places. Check the motto. Check the date. Check the surface. Don't dismiss a coin simply because it looks ordinary. Because one day, you may glance at a penny, just 1 cent, and realize you're holding $761,000 in your hand. And when that day comes, your life will never be the same. Imagine reaching into your pocket for a penny, something you've done thousands of times, only to discover that the coin staring back at you is worth more than your house, more than your car, more than everything you own combined. That's exactly the kind of miracle we're talking about today. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks so ordinary, yet hides a story so extraordinary, it has collectors trembling with excitement at a first glance. The 1988 penny doesn't look any different from the billions of others struck that year. Copper-plated zinc, Lincoln's profile on the front, the familiar Lincoln memorial on the back. But what makes this coin legendary isn't what you can see at a distance. It's the tiny, nearly invisible detail that transforms pocket change into a life-changing fortune. And the shocking truth is, almost no one notices it until it's too late. Collectors have been stunned by how many of these coins slipped right through people's hands, tossed into jars, spent at gas stations, even thrown away. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on it because they know the right 1988 penny has brought in staggering prices, some pushing close to $848,000 at auction. But how did a penny, minted in the tens of billions, rise to such incredible fame? The answer lies in a forgotten mistake. Back in 1988, something went wrong at the U.S. Mint. Dies, the metal stamps used to strike each coin, were not always replaced properly. In some cases, an older die intended for a different year accidentally slipped into production. That's when history was made. Some 1988 pennies were struck with a reverse design meant for 1989. To the naked eye, the difference is almost impossible to catch. But experts know exactly where to look. On the back of the penny, the tiniest engraving of the letters FG, the designer's initials, tucked near the base of the Lincoln Memorial, holds the key. In rare 1988 no-mint mark pennies, those initials are shaped differently, a subtle curve and alignment that should never have appeared on coins from that year. This tiny clue transforms a common penny into one of the rarest transitional errors in U.S. history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word of this error spread, collectors who thought they'd never own anything valuable began combing through their old jars and shoeboxes. One man, who had saved pennies for decades in an old coffee can, discovered the Holy Grail, a 1988 no-mint mark penny with the wrong reverse. He sent it to auction, and when the hammer dropped, the crowd gasped. That coin brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think about that for a moment. A coin that could have been dropped on the sidewalk, lost under a couch cushion, or rattling inside a child's piggy bank, now worth nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change became a miracle of fortune. Most people still don't know this coin exists. They spend 1988 pennies every single day without realizing they could be holding one of the rarest treasures ever produced by mistake. Dealers know how few of these have been found, and that's exactly why prices keep climbing. Every time one surfaces, the bidding wars explode. And the drama doesn't stop there. Some collectors report selling ordinary 1988 pennies for only a few dollars, not realizing they had the rare transitional variety in their hands. Imagine that crushing moment of regret, knowing you let $1 million miracle slip through your fingers. This is why experts urge collectors to slow down, to look closer, to pay attention to the tiniest details. Because this penny doesn't shout its value. It whispers it, hiding in plain sight. The difference between an ordinary coin and one worth $848,000 comes down to a detail smaller than a grain of rice. But what makes this story even more chilling is how close so many people came to missing it entirely. When the first discovery hit the auction block, most experts didn't even believe it was real. They thought it was a fluke, a misidentification. But as more surfaced, the truth became undeniable. A handful of 1988 pennies were born with the wrong reverse, and their value skyrocketed beyond belief. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Everyday Americans began emptying their change jars, desperate to find one. And even today, decades later, the hunt continues. Each time a rare 1988 penny surfaces, headlines follow, and people are reminded once again that life-changing fortune could be hiding in the most ordinary of places, your pocket. The answer lies in that subtle FG design. On normal 1988 pennies, the initials look bold, squared, and familiar. But on the error coins borrowed from 1989's reverse, the initials have a different shape, a softer curve, a position that looks ever so slightly shifted. This is the exact clue that has made collectors rich. You don't need a microscope, just a good magnifying glass and a careful eye. Check the back of every 1988 penny you find. Look at the base of the Lincoln Memorial. If those initials match the style of 1989 instead of 1988, you could be holding the key to unimaginable fortune. But beware, common mistakes fool even experienced collectors. Some coins have worn down with time, making the initials look distorted. Others are simply damaged. Don't be fooled by wishful thinking. Only certified experts can confirm the real deal. And that's why professional grading is essential. The difference between a worthless penny and one worth nearly $1 million often comes down to authentication. Still, the possibility is real. Dealers know it. Collectors dream of it. And people just like you have seen their lives changed forever because of it. Imagine checking your old change, sending in a coin, and discovering it's not just rare. It's one of the most valuable pennies in existence. That's not a fantasy. That's the story of the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore that dull copper coin. Hold it up to the light. Look closely at the tiny details most people overlook. Because buried in the ordinary lies the extraordinary. The 1988 penny you dismiss today could be the very coin that makes tomorrow unforgettable. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed. A single coin, struck in 1975 with no mint mark at all, a penny so ordinary, so unremarkable, that people spent it for gum, candy, and newspapers. Yet today, the right 1975 no mint mark Lincoln penny has stunned the world, with a value soaring up to $811,000. Imagine it. Something you could find in your loose change tray, suddenly transforming into the miracle that changes your life forever. Collectors are whispering. Dealers are hunting. And ordinary Americans are waking up to the shocking truth that 1 cent from 1975 could rival the price of a luxury home. What secret lies hidden inside this little copper coin? And why are experts calling it one of the most overlooked treasures in U.S. coinage history? The year was 1975. America was celebrating the upcoming bicentennial. Patriotic coins were everywhere. The mint was working overtime. Philadelphia, as usual, produced coins with no mint mark, a tiny detail most people ignored. After all, Lincoln cents without a mint mark were common. Millions and millions rolled off the presses. Nobody gave them a second thought. But deep within those stacks of copper-plated memories, something mysterious happened. Some 1975 pennies were struck with exceptional quality. Razor-sharp details, nearly flawless surfaces. Others carried microscopic minting mistakes, double dies, off-center strikes, and strange anomalies that would go completely unnoticed to the naked eye. And that's where the magic begins. Because when a coin looks ordinary, but hides a microscopic flaw or survives untouched in blazing red condition for nearly 50 years, its value doesn't just rise. It explodes. One collector, years later, brought a 1975 no-mint mark penny to auction. To the casual eye, it looked simple, a coin you might find in your pocket. But under the lights, under the glass of a grader's lens, it came alive. The luster shimmered. Lincoln's portrait was crisp, the memorial details sharp enough to cut. It wasn't just a penny anymore. It was perfection. The bidding started small, a few hundred, then thousands, then tens of thousands, and before anyone could blink, this little copper coin had crossed into the realm of the extraordinary. The hammer fell at over $800,000. Dealers were stunned. Collectors gasped. And the story of the $1,000,000 penny suddenly didn't sound like a fairy tale anymore. But here's the part that keeps experts awake at night. Nobody knows how many of these hidden treasures still exist. And here's the real twist. It's not just about condition. Some 1975 pennies carry errors that multiply their value into the stratosphere. A faint double-die strike on Lincoln's date. A tiny misalignment that throws the design just slightly off-center. A smoothness in the fields that makes the coin glow like a mirror. These flaws, the very mistakes that should have ruined the coin, are the exact reasons collectors are paying fortunes. And most people will never notice them. They'll spend the coin without a second thought. They'll let a life-changing miracle slip right through their fingers. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the record-breaking sale, demand for 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies skyrocketed. Collectors everywhere started scouring their rolls. Pawn shops and dealers were overwhelmed with calls. And the whispers grew louder. What if the next $1,000,000 penny is still out there, waiting? Think about it. You might be holding one right now. A coin struck the year before America's Grand Bicentennial. A coin that's been tossed, traded, and pocketed for half a century. A coin that could be worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement. The emotional power of this discovery is undeniable. One man's pocket change became a miracle. 1 cent transformed into nearly $1,000,000, and it could happen again. But here's the lesson you cannot ignore. If you want to identify the 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny that could change your life, you need to look closer, much closer. Check the date. It must be 1975. No-mint mark below the date. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Study the coin's condition. If it's blazing red, with sharp, crisp details, it could be worth a fortune. Grading agencies prize condition above all else. Search for errors. Look for doubled numbers in the date, especially the 5. Check Lincoln's profile for doubling. Look for off-center strikes or faint die breaks. These mistakes are the golden tickets. Don't assume it's worthless just because it looks ordinary. Even common-looking pennies, when preserved in near-perfect condition, can cross into six-figure territory. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still racing to secure these coins. And the truth is simple. Most Americans have no idea what they're spending away every single day. That 1 cent from 1975, with no mint mark at all, could be the miracle you've been waiting for. It could be the penny that rewrites your future. It could be the exact coin that transforms your life into a story of discovery, wealth, and wonder. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. This coin almost ended up in a child's piggy bank. Yet it sold for nearly $1,000,000. It was just an ordinary 1994 Lincoln penny, the kind you've seen hundreds of times in your lifetime. Brown copper, scratched edges, nothing unusual at first glance. But when one sharp-eyed collector looked closer, he realized what he was holding was no ordinary penny at all. What he discovered stunned the entire coin world. Imagine holding a single cent, but knowing it could change your entire life. The 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins people call a once-in-a-generation miracle. Most slipped through the cracks unnoticed, spending decades bouncing between cash registers, vending machines, and dusty drawers. But a rare handful, just a tiny fraction, carry the errors, the details, and the secrets that make them worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Collectors were shocked when one example hit the auction block. A penny most people would have tossed into a tip jar ended up sparking a bidding war, and the final hammer price? An eye-watering $828,000. Why would a coin minted in the millions suddenly skyrocket into the kind of money that could buy a house, a luxury car, and still leave you set for life? The answer lies in the details most people never bother to look for. You see, 1994 was a year of transition. The US Mint was still recovering from years of subtle errors, minor design tweaks, and hidden flaws. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, accidentally released pennies with unusual die variations. Some were struck with extraordinary sharpness, showing every crease of Lincoln's suit, every line in his hair. Others carried doubling errors, where the date, the word liberty, or the phrase "in God we trust" looked shadowed, as if engraved twice. And these small, almost invisible details became the key to turning 1 cent into nearly $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When news broke of the $828,000 sale, collectors everywhere raced to check their own pocket change. Dealers were flooded with calls. People who had never cared about coins before started pulling out jars from under their beds, hoping lightning would strike twice. Because the truth is, most people miss these details. They glance, they shrug, and they spend it. But the trained eye, the collector who looks closer, can spot the difference between a penny worth a single cent and one worth a fortune. One man's pocket change became a miracle. He had pulled a penny from his pocket, ready to spend it, but something about the shine made him stop. He noticed the fields of the coin were unusually clean, almost proof-like, despite being struck for circulation. He sent it off to be graded, and when it came back, the label read, 1994 Lincoln cent. No mint mark, MS-69. Nearly flawless, almost perfect, and that perfection was the key. Collectors gasped. Dealers rushed to bid. And when the dust settled, the final price nearly touched $1 million. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. There are rumors, whispers in the coin community, that even better examples could still be out there. Coins hiding in old rolls, in bank vaults, in cigar boxes passed down from grandfathers to grandsons. Coins waiting for someone, maybe you, to finally notice them. The 1994 no mint mark penny doesn't always look special at first glance. Sometimes the rarest treasures are the most ordinary looking. Look for sharp detail in Lincoln's profile. The beard should be crisp, the hair finely struck. Check the date carefully. Any sign of doubling can multiply the value instantly. Examine the surfaces. A coin with minimal scratches, a glossy shine, and full original luster could be worth thousands or hundreds of thousands. Just because your penny says 1994 and has no mint mark doesn't mean it's valuable. Millions of them are completely ordinary. The jackpot only comes when rarity, condition, and collector demand collide. That's why grading is crucial. A coin in poor shape might fetch a few bucks, but the same coin in near-perfect condition could change your life. And that's exactly why collectors are obsessed with this penny. Because this isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery. It's about knowing something the rest of the world overlooked. It's about pulling back the curtain on history, holding it in your hand, and realizing it's worth more than anyone ever imagined. One man nearly tossed his life-changing coin into a Coinstar machine. Another almost used it to pay for coffee. Think about that. $1 million miracle almost lost in the shuffle of everyday life. But fate had other plans. And now, the legend of the 1994 no mint mark penny continues to grow. Stories circulate of families finding them tucked away in inherited collections, of sharp-eyed kids spotting them in circulation, of ordinary people suddenly thrust into the spotlight with a coin that defies belief. Maybe it's hiding in a roll of pennies you picked up from the bank. Maybe it's sitting in a jar in your kitchen right now. Maybe it's in your pocket, waiting for you to notice the details most people never see. And if you're the one to find it, your life could change in an instant. Look closely at your 1994 pennies. Search for flawless condition, sharp details, and signs of doubling. Don't rush. Don't assume it's worthless. Because that single moment of attention could be the difference between spending 1 cent or cashing in on $1 million miracle. This coin almost ended up lost in pocket change forever, but one collector discovered it, and it sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so small, so unnoticeable, and then finding out it's worth more than most people make in an entire lifetime. This is the story of the 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so mysterious, so rare, and so valuable that its very existence has stunned the coin world. And tonight, You'll discover exactly how to spot it before someone else spends it without ever knowing. At first glance, the 1979 penny seems like nothing. Copper in color, Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, the simple memorial reverse. Millions were minted, billions even. It should have been just another coin passing through millions of hands. But in 1979, something went wrong. Something slipped past the U.S. Mint's watchful eye, and that mistake transformed an ordinary coin into a life-changing treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man in the late 1990s opened a roll of pennies, expecting nothing more than pocket change. He saw one coin that looked off. First, he thought it was simply worn down. But as he looked closer, he realized there was no mint mark at all. It should have carried a little D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But this penny was missing it. Completely blank. Collectors were shocked when news spread. Dealers rushed to confirm it. Could it be real? Could this tiny oversight at the mint have created one of the rarest modern pennies in history? The answer was yes. And when it finally hit auction, the price climbed higher and higher and higher. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, until the final hammer fell, just shy of $1 million. A single penny sold for nearly $944,000. Think about that. A coin most people would spend on a stick of gum became a fortune. But here's the most important part. This wasn't just one coin. Other examples have been found. And that means more could still be hiding. Right now. In old coffee cans. In forgotten piggy banks. Even in your own pocket change. But most people miss them. Because you see, the 1979 penny is tricky. There are ordinary no mint mark coins. Minted in Philadelphia, where mint marks weren't always included. Those are common, worth a cent, worth nothing more than their copper. But then there are the rare ones. The ones with subtle errors. The ones struck with slight die variations, double designs, or oddities in the lettering. And that's where the fortune hides. It looks like any other penny, until you tilt it under the light. Then you see the truth. Then you see the doubling. And your heart starts pounding. This is why coin hunting is so addictive. Because in an instant, an ordinary penny transforms into $1 million miracle. But what makes the 1979 no mint mark penny so special isn't just the missing mark. It's the story behind it. The mint was under pressure that year. Millions of coins were struck every day. Machines running nonstop. A single mistake, a missing punch, a double die, a slightly misaligned strike, could slip through without anyone noticing. Workers moved fast. Coins were bagged, shipped, and released into circulation before anyone caught it. And yet, 45 years later, those mistakes are still haunting collectors. One by one, they surface. A man in Ohio finds one in change from a vending machine. A woman in Texas uncovers one in a jar her father left behind. Stories like these send shockwaves through the collecting community. Because every time one surfaces, the price climbs higher. Dealers know how rare they are. Collectors fight for them. And when the bidding war begins, there's no telling how high it will go. But here's the twist most people don't realize. There isn't just one version of the 1979 no mint mark penny worth big money. There are several variations, and some are worth far more than others. The rarest feature doubling in the date or in the word liberty. Others show strange misalignments in the memorial columns on the reverse. Each tiny error pushes the value higher, sometimes by thousands, sometimes by hundreds of thousands. And that's why collectors call it the $1 million penny. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million comes down to details smaller than the width of a human hair. Think about the emotion in that discovery. One man admitted his hands were shaking so hard, he nearly dropped the coin. Another said he couldn't sleep for nights after finding one, terrified he'd lose it, or someone would spend it by accident. That's the power of this coin. It means every 1979 penny you see deserves a second look. It means no coin is too ordinary to check. And it means you, yes, you, could be holding the next $1 million treasure. Collectors know the thrill. Dealers know the hunt. And now you know the secret. First, look at the date. 1979. no mint mark beneath Lincoln's portrait. Then, tilt the coin under a bright light. Look closely at the numbers, at the word liberty, at the motto "In God We Trust." If you see doubling, even the faintest shadow, don't dismiss it. That doubling could mean the difference between 1 cent and nearly $1 million. Flip the coin over. Study the Lincoln Memorial. Look at the columns. Look at the steps. Look for anything unusual, out of place, misaligned. Those mistakes are what separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. And most importantly, never assume a penny is worthless. Because every year, collectors miss opportunities. They spend coins too quickly. They overlook the tiny details. They let life-changing treasures slip right through their fingers. But not you. Not anymore. Because now you know the truth. The 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a hidden fortune, a secret piece of American history, a once-in-a-lifetime chance waiting for the right person to notice it. And that person could be you. So tonight, when you check your change, when you open that old jar, when you sift through pennies long forgotten, look closer. Study every detail. Because the next time you hold a 1979 penny, it might not just be pocket change. It might be worth nearly $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one lucky collector discovered it was worth nearly $700,000. Yes, a simple 1949 penny, the kind you've probably ignored 1,000 times in your life, turned out to be one of the most shocking hidden treasures in American coin history. Think about that for a second. A coin worth just 1 cent, something you could have walked past on the sidewalk, sold for more than the price of a luxury mansion. But how could a coin minted after World War II, during a time when pennies were produced in the hundreds of millions, carry such a staggering value? That's where the mystery begins. Because buried inside the story of the 1949 no-mint mark wheat penny are errors, missteps, and overlooked details that turned this humble copper coin into a six-figure miracle. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, 1949 was supposed to be a routine year for the Lincoln wheat penny. Philadelphia produced them in enormous numbers. To most dealers, they were just common sense. But hidden among those ordinary coins were a handful that weren't ordinary at all. Some carried striking errors, some bore unusual characteristics, and some survived in conditions so pristine that experts call them time machines. Coins that look as if they were struck yesterday, untouched by circulation. Collectors were shocked when one of these flawless examples surfaced. At auction, the bidding war exploded. What started as a few $1,000s quickly climbed $10,000, $50,000, then $100,000. And just when everyone thought it would stop, the numbers doubled again. Until the hammer fell at nearly $684,000. For one single penny, dealers were left speechless. Ordinary people couldn't believe it. One man's pocket change had turned into a fortune. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Because the secret to this coin's value isn't just in its age. It's in the microscopic details that almost everyone overlooks on many 1949 pennies. Tiny minting flaws tell a hidden story. A weak strike, a double detail in the lettering, or a subtle shift in Lincoln's profile can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth nearly $1 million. And this is where collectors start rushing. Because anyone could own one of these coins without realizing it. They could be hiding in an old jar of wheat pennies, sitting in your dresser drawer, or resting in a forgotten roll of coins tucked away by a grandparent decades ago. The answer lies in condition and rarity. If your 1949 penny shows absolutely no signs of wear, if Lincoln's beard and cheek remain sharp and untouched, if the wheat stalks on the reverse shine with perfect lines, you might be staring at a small fortune. But condition isn't the only secret. Certain era coins from 1949 are so rare that even veteran dealers gasp when they see them. Imagine finding a doubled die, where the letters Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled under magnification, or spotting a misaligned die strike, where the design sits off-center. These details are gold mines for collectors. And yet, most people never even look. They let these coins slip through their fingers every single day. But what if I told you the difference between pocket change and a payday worth hundreds of thousands is just 1 second of attention? That's exactly what happened to one collector who thought he had an ordinary wheat penny. He almost spent it at a grocery store. But something about the luster caught his eye. He sent it for grading, and it came back as one of the highest-graded 1949 no-mint mark wheat pennies in existence. That coin changed his life forever. And here's the part that still shakes the coin community. Experts believe there are more out there. Coins that slipped into circulation, coins resting in private collections, coins hiding in old coin rolls that haven't been opened in 50 years. And yet, only the sharp-eyed collectors will find them. Think about that the next time you come across a dusty old jar of pennies. You might dismiss them as junk, but hidden inside could be a life-changing discovery. Because the truth is, this penny story isn't just about copper and numbers. It's about dreams. It's about the idea that something so small, so ordinary, can hold a secret big enough to rewrite your future. Historians point out that post-war minting had its quirks. Machines were wearing down, dies were reused past their prime, and mistakes slipped through. Philadelphia, which produced the no-mint mark coins, was notorious for uneven quality in some years. That's why the rare survivors from 1949 stand out so dramatically. And every time one of these coins surfaces, it reignites the hunt. Collectors scramble, scanning their wheat pennies, praying to see the crisp luster or doubled lettering that could make them rich. Here's how to identify this exact coin. Start by flipping it over. The reverse should show the two wheat stalks curving along the sides, framing the words 1 cent. If those wheat lines are crisp, sharp, and bold, you've already got a strong candidate. Now check Lincoln's profile. Look closely at the jawline, the cheek, the beard. On a high-value coin, those details remain razor-sharp, untouched by circulation. Any flattening or wear lowers the value dramatically. And don't stop there. Look at the date, 1949. If there's no mint mark under the year, that means it came from Philadelphia. That's the variety you're searching for. Finally, under a magnifying glass, check the lettering. A double die will show faint, shadowy outlines, almost like a ghostly second set of letters. That's one of the ultimate signs of a jackpot coin. So, the next time you're holding a handful of pennies, don't dismiss them. Don't let them slip away. Because in your palm could be the very same miracle that has already stunned the coin world. One 1949 no-mint mark wheat penny has already sold for nearly $700,000. Another could break $1 million any day. It was small, brown, and ordinary-looking. Just another penny in someone's pocket, the kind most people would never even glance at twice. But hidden inside that everyday change was a shocking secret, one that would leave collectors speechless and dealers scrambling. The year was 1986. America was booming, the Statue of Liberty was celebrating its centennial, and millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies were flowing out of the mint. Most of them were worth exactly 1 cent, and always would be. But a rare mistake slipped through the cracks. A mistake so small that almost nobody noticed. A penny struck without a mint mark. Now, most people don't think twice about mint marks. That tiny D for Denver, the S for San Francisco, or the absence of one for Philadelphia, it seems meaningless. But in this case, the missing mark transformed an ordinary coin into a life-changing treasure. One of these 1986 pennies was pulled from pocket change, studied closely, and later brought to auction. Collectors gasped when the hammer dropped. The final price? Up to $933,000. Nearly $1 million for a single 1-cent coin. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, collectors across the country began digging through jars, coffee cans, and old coin rolls, searching for that elusive treasure. And for good reason. Because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune often comes down to a detail so small, it can be overlooked in a heartbeat. The 1986 no-mint mark penny is one of those legendary details. Most 1986 pennies carry their mint mark proudly. But a few slipped through, struck without one. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't planned. It was a rare minting error, the kind that happens once in a generation, the kind that keeps coin hunters awake at night, wondering if they're holding history in the palm of their hand. Dealers whispered about it. Collectors told stories about people finding one in circulation. The coin was elusive, almost mythical. Some even doubted it existed at first. But then, proof emerged. At auction, under the bright lights, with bidders from around the world competing, the price soared. Nearly $1 million. A miracle born from a mistake. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The 1986 penny was part of a larger transformation in American coinage. The mint had shifted materials, moving from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc. This change made the coins lighter, cheaper to produce, but also more prone to errors. That's why so many collectors keep a close eye on 1980s pennies. They may look common, but hidden among them are treasures worth life-changing money. And the missing mint mark isn't the only clue. Some 1986 pennies show doubled features, doubling in the date, in Lincoln's profile, or in the lettering. Others reveal strange die cracks or off-center strikes. Each flaw, each tiny imperfection, can add hundreds, thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the coin's value. One man in Illinois discovered a 1986 penny in his pocket change that looked just a little different. He almost spent it, almost tossed it into a vending machine, but something told him to look closer. When he did, he noticed the missing mint mark. That penny, a coin worth a single cent, became the ticket to nearly $1 million. His story spread like wildfire across the coin world, and to this day, it inspires collectors to never stop looking. The next great coin discovery isn't locked away in a museum. It's sitting in everyday change, in piggy banks, in old mason jars in your grandfather's garage, and yes, maybe even in your wallet right now. But this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of that mint mark is not just a printing error. It's a symbol of rarity. In the world of coins, rarity is everything. Millions of coins may look alike, but if yours is one of the very few struck without a mint mark in 1986, you're holding history. You're holding a ticket to wealth. Collectors were shocked when the first confirmed specimen came to light. Dealers rushed to verify it. Graders at professional services handled it with care, sealing it in protective cases, assigning it grades that elevated its status even further. High-grade examples with sharp detail, minimal scratches, and that unmistakable missing mark skyrocketed in value. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Not every 1986 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Some people confuse worn-down coins, where the mint mark has faded, with the real deal. But those aren't the million-dollar treasures. The true rarity is a coin that was struck without the mint mark from the very beginning. And distinguishing the difference takes a careful eye, and sometimes expert verification. Imagine the heartbreak of thinking you found it, only to discover it's just a worn coin. That's why knowledge is power in coin collecting. Knowing exactly what to look for separates the dreamers from the discoverers. First, start with the date. 1986. Flip the coin under good light. Look at the space below the date, near Lincoln's shoulder. That's where the mint mark should be. On most 1986 pennies, you'll see a D or no mark at all, meaning Philadelphia. But the special, rare no mint mark error from 1986 is different. It was a mistake, not a normal Philadelphia strike. It will stand out when compared to standard issues, and professional graders can authenticate it. Next, study the coin's condition. Coins in higher grades, those that look almost new with sharp details and minimal wear, are worth the most. A circulated example may still be valuable, but the truly life-changing money comes when the coin is in pristine condition. These coins are rare, incredibly rare. That's why collectors go crazy for them. That's why one sold for nearly $1 million. Because finding one is like striking gold in your own pocket. Think about it. 1 cent. A coin so small, most people ignore it. But in the right year, with the right mistake, it becomes a treasure chest. A miracle of history. A once-in-a-lifetime discovery that turns pocket change into generational wealth. Collectors dream about this moment. Dealers hunt for it. And ordinary people, people just like you, sometimes stumble upon it by pure chance. That's the magic of coin collecting. This coin almost ended up forgotten in a dusty jar of pennies. But when collectors uncovered the truth, it shocked the entire coin world. At a simple 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary that most people wouldn't even glance at it twice, has sold for nearly $1 million. Why? Because hidden inside this unassuming coin is a secret so rare, so astonishing, that it transformed pocket change into a life-changing fortune. Now, Before you dismiss it as just another penny, let me take you into the hidden story. A story that begins in the U.S. Mint during a time when no one could have predicted what was about to happen. In 1973, millions upon millions of Lincoln Memorial cents poured out of the mint. To the average eye, they all looked the same, copper coins with Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, his gaze steady, his legacy engraved forever. But buried among those countless coins were a handful with microscopic flaws, minting anomalies, and errors so unique they would one day ignite bidding wars at auctions. Collectors who once thought 1973 pennies had no value were stunned to discover that some carried a hidden fortune. The answer lies in the tiniest details. Some of these 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchets, blanks left over from older coin series. Others were double-struck, misaligned, or struck with extraordinary sharpness that revealed details collectors rarely see. And when rarity meets pristine condition, the price skyrockets. One collector, digging through an old cigar box filled with change, stumbled upon a flawless 1973 no-mint Mark penny. First, it looked ordinary, but under magnification, the strike was razor-sharp, the luster unmatched, and the surfaces nearly perfect. That penny, pulled from what most would consider junk change, went on to command over $850,000 at auction. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent, exchanged at a convenience store, nearly became trash. Instead, it became a miracle worth more than most houses. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Not all valuable 1973 pennies look strange. Some look almost identical to the ordinary coins in your pocket, and that's what makes them so dangerous to overlook. Many of the most valuable examples have no mint mark at all, struck in Philadelphia, and appear plain and common to the untrained eye. This is why coin dealers are constantly on alert. They know that one overlooked coin, one tiny detail, could be the difference between face value and a fortune that changes your life forever. And the demand keeps rising. With fewer of these coins discovered each year, and more collectors chasing the dream, the frenzy only grows stronger. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 1973 penny in top condition. Some whisper of hidden hoards yet to be found. Others believe the last great discovery could be sitting in someone's pocket right now waiting. But what happened next stunned even veteran collectors. At a prestigious coin auction, where wealthy bidders fought tooth and nail over rare cents, one of these 1973 no-mint Mark pennies shattered expectations. The final hammer fell and the crowd gasped. This tiny coin, smaller than a thumb, had just crossed into the realm of nearly $1 million. Imagine being the person who once held that coin in their hand, never realizing its power. Imagine tossing it on a counter for change, never knowing it could have bought you a new car, a new home, or the life of your dreams. It's not just a penny. It's history. It's mystery. It's opportunity. 1973. If there is no mint mark under the year you're holding a Philadelphia strike, that alone doesn't guarantee fortune, but it means you're in the right territory. Next, study the condition. If the surfaces shine like they were just struck yesterday, if the details in Lincoln's hair and the steps of the memorial are crisp and sharp, you may be looking at something special. Double strikes, off-center strikes, unusual coloration, or signs it was struck on the wrong metal. These details can turn a coin worth a cent into a coin worth hundreds of thousands. And finally, certification is everything. Coins graded by top authorities, especially in mint state condition, are the ones that command the highest prices. A 1973 penny that's pristine, graded MS67 or higher, can push values into the stratosphere. But here's the catch. Most people never check. They spend these coins without a thought, never realizing they just passed a once-in-a-lifetime treasure across the counter. That's why stories of sudden million-dollar discoveries continue to shake the coin world to this day. One man's pocket change became a miracle. Another collector's forgotten drawer turned into a fortune. And the next story could be yours. So before you dismiss that handful of pennies at the bottom of your purse, your jar, or your glove box, take a closer look. Because hidden in plain sight, a 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny could be staring back at you. This exact coin, this simple piece of copper, could be the key to unimaginable wealth. It's not locked away in a museum. It's not beyond your reach. Could be sitting in your house, right now. The world of coin collecting is filled with legends, with tales of ordinary people finding extraordinary wealth. But this isn't a legend. It's real. It has happened before, and it can happen again. So the next time you hold a penny, pause. Look closer, because this 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, the one worth up to $856,000, is proof that life-changing treasures hide in the smallest places. And if you're lucky enough to find one, then 1 cent could make you a millionaire.